If you were to take every single dollar bill currently in circulation on Earth, every yen, every euro, every greenback, and stack them all in one pile, you still wouldn't have enough money to buy what one company in New York manages from a single computer terminal. Most people think the world is run by presidents, prime ministers, or perhaps the eccentric billionaires we see on the news every night. But those people are just the faces on the stage. Behind the curtain, there is a shadow entity that has quietly become the largest landlord, the largest shareholder, and the largest creditor in human history. They own the company that made your phone. They own the company that processed your morning coffee transaction. They own the debt on the house you live in and the hospital where you were born. And yet, if you asked 100 people on the street who they are, 99 of them wouldn't have a clue. This isn't a secret society or a hooded cabal. This is a corporation that operates in broad daylight, yet it is so massive that it has become essentially invisible. Today, we are pulling back the veil on BlackRock. We're going to look at the God machine they built to predict the future, the reason the US government has them on speed dial, and why your own retirement savings are being used as a weapon to reshape global society, whether you like it or not. By the time this video is over, you'll realize that you don't live in a traditional economy anymore. You live in an empire, and you've been paying taxes to it your entire life without even realizing it. To understand the sheer scale of what we're dealing with, we have to start with a number that the human brain isn't actually wired to comprehend: $10 trillion. If you spent $1 every single second, it would take you about 31,000 years to reach 1 trillion. BlackRock manages 10 of those. That is more wealth than the entire GDP of Germany, Japan, and the United Kingdom combined. But here's the thing, BlackRock doesn't produce anything. They don't have factories, they don't have mines, they don't have retail stores. Their product is influence. Think of the global economy as a massive high-stakes game of poker. Every country is at the table, every major corporation is playing, and the chips are our collective futures. In this scenario, BlackRock isn't just another player. They are the person who owns the casino, provides the cards, and, most importantly, is the only one allowed to see everyone else's hand. How did one firm go from a startup in 1988 to the most powerful financial force in history? It wasn't through a series of lucky bets or flashy hostile takeovers. It was through a quiet, clinical obsession with one thing: risk. Enter Larry Fink. To understand BlackRock, you have to understand the man who built it. Fink wasn't a natural-born winner. He was a man fueled by a massive public failure. In the 80s, he was a star on Wall Street until he made a mistake that cost his firm $100 million. He was fired, humiliated, and cast out. Most people would have retired. Fink became obsessed. He realized that his mistake happened because he didn't have enough data. He didn't see the invisible risks. So when he started BlackRock, he didn't just want to manage money. He wanted to build a machine that could see everything. He called that machine Aladdin. Imagine a supercomputer that lives in the basement of the global financial system. Aladdin, which stands for Asset, Liability, and Debt and Derivative Investment Network, is the central nervous system of modern finance. It monitors over $20 trillion in assets. That is 10% of all the world's financial wealth. It isn't just a database, it's a predictive engine. It analyzes every possible variable: a war in the Middle East, a drought in Brazil, a change in interest rates in Japan, or a viral tweet from a CEO. Aladdin crunches these billions of data points to tell BlackRock and their clients exactly when to move their money. And here is where it gets interesting. BlackRock doesn't just use Aladdin for themselves. They lease it out. Every major bank, every massive insurance company, and even the official pension funds of entire countries use Aladdin to manage their risk. Think about the implications of that. If everyone is using the same brain to make their financial decisions, what happens when that brain makes a mistake? If the entire world is looking through the same lens, everyone sees the same opportunities and the same threats at the same time. This creates a terrifying level of centralization. It's no longer a market of different ideas, it's a monolith. But why should you care? You're not a Wall Street trader. You don't have a terminal in your living room. Well, let's look at your daily life. Have you ever wondered why, no matter which brand of toothpaste or detergent you buy, the same 3 or 4 investment firms seem to be the top shareholders of both companies? If you look at the S&P 500, the 500 largest companies in America, BlackRock is a top 3 shareholder in nearly every single one of them. They are the largest shareholder in Apple. They are the largest shareholder in Microsoft. They are the largest shareholder in the banks, the oil companies, and the pharmaceutical giants. This is what economists call horizontal ownership. In the old days, Coca-Cola and Pepsi were fierce rivals. They fought for every inch of market share. But today, if the same entity, BlackRock, is a major owner of both, does it really matter who wins the cola war? The house always wins. This takes the competition out of capitalism. When the same people own the entire industry, there is less incentive for companies to lower prices or innovate. Their goal isn't to beat the competition, it's to ensure the entire sector remains profitable for the ultimate owner. And who is that owner? Technically, it's you. This is the cleverest part of the BlackRock model. They don't actually own most of that $10 trillion with their own cash. They manage it on behalf of passive investors. If you have a 401k, an index fund, or a pension, your money is likely being funneled into BlackRock's black hole. You give them your money because they have the lowest fees and the best technology. In exchange, you give them something much more valuable than your cash. You give them your vote. When you own a share of a company, you have a right to vote on who sits on the board of directors and what policies the company should follow. But because you've invested through a BlackRock ETF, you don't get that ballot. BlackRock does. Larry Fink and a small group of executives at BlackRock essentially hold the proxy voting power for millions of people. This makes them the ultimate kingmakers. If a CEO wants to keep their job, they don't just need to please the customers. They need to please Larry Fink. This brings us to the dark side of this influence, the concept of ESG. For the last several years, BlackRock has been the primary driver of environmental, social, and governance standards. Larry Fink started writing letters to CEOs that sent shockwaves through the corporate world. He essentially told them, if you want our capital, you have to follow our social and environmental agenda. On the surface, this sounds great. Who wouldn't want companies to be more sustainable or socially responsible? But look closer. This is a private corporation, which was never elected by anyone, using other people's money to force social engineering on a global scale. They are effectively bypassing the democratic process. If a law can't get passed in Congress, BlackRock can simply tell the companies they own to implement the policy anyway. This is stakeholder capitalism, and it is the bridge between corporate power and political control. But it's not just about social policy, it's about survival. Whenever the economy breaks, who do you think the government turns to? In 2008, when the global financial system was on the brink of a total meltdown, the US Treasury and the Federal Reserve didn't know how to handle the toxic assets on the bank's books. They didn't have the technology to price the risk, so they hired BlackRock. The government essentially handed the keys of the recovery to a private firm. BlackRock was tasked with deciding which assets were worth saving and which weren't. This gave them an unprecedented look into the inner workings of their competitors and the government itself. Then it happened again in 2020. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, the Federal Reserve needed to buy corporate bonds to keep the market from collapsing. Again, they turned to BlackRock to manage the program. This created what many call a shadow government. BlackRock has become too big to fail in a way that no bank ever was. If BlackRock goes down, the Aladdin system goes down. If Aladdin goes down, the entire global financial nervous system goes dark. We've reached a point where the regulators are dependent on the regulated. Now let's talk about something that hits even closer to home, the roof over your head. You may have heard stories about Wall Street buying up all the houses. While BlackRock often points out that they aren't the ones physically outbidding you for a 3-bedroom suburban home, that's usually private equity firms like Blackstone, a different company, though they share a common history. The influence of BlackRock is still there. They provide the massive amounts of capital and the financial plumbing that allows these smaller firms to dominate the housing market. They've helped turn housing from a human necessity into a yield-bearing asset class. When the world's largest asset manager signals that the era of cheap homeownership is over and the era of the Rentership Society has begun, the markets listen. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They aren't just predicting the future, they are choosing it. So, where does this leave you? It's easy to feel small when you're looking at a $10 trillion giant. It's easy to feel like your individual choices don't matter when a supercomputer is already calculating your next move. But understanding the invisible empire is the first step toward reclaiming some of that power. The system relies on passive investing. It relies on you putting your money into a black box and never asking what's happening inside. It relies on your indifference. The reality is that BlackRock's power is entirely derived from us. It is our retirement funds, our savings, and our labor that fuel the machine. We are currently seeing a massive rebalancing of power in the world. The old lines between government and corporation are blurring. We are moving toward a world of extreme centralization, where a few gatekeepers decide what kind of energy we use, what kind of houses we live in, and what kind of values our companies should have. This isn't just about finance. It's about the soul of our society. Do we want a world where the market is actually just an algorithm owned by a single firm? Do we want a world where the person who manages your pension has more influence over your country's laws than your elected representatives? Larry Fink once said that, "The world is not as risky as you think, it's just more connected than you realize." He's right. We are all connected. We are all part of the same web. But we have to ask ourselves who is the spider and who is the fly. The invisible empire only stays invisible as long as we keep our eyes closed. It's time to wake up.